All right, we're digging into lesson number 9 now. A lot of what we've done so far has been quite a mix of hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are things that are easily measurable, maybe some gear. Soft skills are things that are not so easily measurable. That is definitely the topic for lesson number 9, which is situational awareness. Situational awareness is a mindset. It's something that you practice on a daily basis, and it's something that if you put a lot of time and effort into it, in the beginning it's going to feel like you're rather paranoid, but when you get to the end, you're going to have a much more fulfilling existence, both to enjoy life as well as to be more safe. So let's dig into situational awareness. First thing I want to do for you is build a foundation on why it is very important to have good situational awareness. It's what a lot of people refer to, particularly the United States Marine Corps, as being left of bang. Bang being an event. On the battlefield for Marines, obviously it could be warfare or the first shot that goes off or something of that nature. For you and I in the normal world, it could be physical assault. It could be an unexpected weather event. It could be a car wreck. It could be any number of things. And whatever that exciting, stressful event is the bang. What we want to do is be prepared left of bang on the time continuum, meaning we want to be aware, responsive, and in control of an event as best we can. The best way to do that is to have good situational awareness. When you find yourself right of bang after an event has started or occurred, you're surprised, reactive, and dependent upon all the input that's happening to you then. You absolutely have no control of the situation. Think of a car wreck. After the car wreck, you don't have any control, you're stressed, you don't know what to do. A good example of being left of bang, even for a car wreck, is make sure you have a good first aid kit in your vehicle. Make sure you wear your seatbelt. Make sure you're paying attention to everything that's going on around you. Don't assume that all the people that are driving around you are going to follow the law. Pretend as if everybody around you is not going to follow the law and drive accordingly. These are all things that you're doing left of bang that require a fair amount of situational awareness, will keep you safe in any situation. As far as starting to develop your situational awareness, there is a really important term for you to understand, and that is called baseline. Baseline is how any environment looks in its natural state, whether it's a wooded wilderness environment like this or an urban setting. How does that environment look? For example, what does the people that go to a country music concert, what do they look like versus ones that go to a heavy metal concert or a rap concert? There's a certain look and feel that you get from the music, from the way people dress, from the way that they look. And that way, if something stands out, it doesn't mean that there's a problem, it just warrants your attention. For example, if I'm driving down the interstate and everybody's driving a certain speed, and then I see another vehicle going by at a very high rate of speed, it's not something I'm ignoring. You probably already do that, but what I want you to do is apply that same concept in any environment that you find yourself in. If I go to this area, a wooded area, and I see that the leaf litter on the ground looks a certain way, and then all of a sudden there's all this stuff that's happening in the forest leaf litter. Leaves are overturned, branches are down, branches are broken and stuff of that nature. Something happened there that warrants my attention. For wilderness survival, that's very valuable. That could be a sign of wildlife. That could be a sign of other people that could help me. If I go into an urban setting, I go into a restaurant, how do people normally dress in that particular restaurant? Where do they sit? Can I look and see the front door? Can I see exit strategies wherever I sit? Do I have the ability when I walk into this facility to be able to exit for safety, defend myself if somebody wants to be aggressive? These are all things that baseline is very important that you should monitor at all times. Now this next point is another point that we're going to borrow heavily from our friends in the United States Marine Corps. It's what they refer to as the combat rule of 3. Meaning for battlefield tactics, for example, there's a heaping amount of stress. And what happens for a lot of humans is that under such stress, we freeze and we don't get things done that we need to get done. So in that particular sense, Marines are taught, if 3 things stand out of place, you've got to pay attention and do something. Here's how we apply that concept to normal life for me and you. It's what I refer to as just simply the critical rule of three. If you recognize that there are three anomalies in the environment that you're existing in, walking in, recreating in, wherever it is that you find yourself, then without a doubt, that is something that warrants your attention. Meaning you should see if it's something that could cause danger. Perfect example for you right here. Let's say that I want to go exercise and I want to go to a high school track, for example, and I want to run around that track. And I go there and I see a group of people that don't normally run on the track. Actually, they're just there. That's anomaly number one. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with what they're doing. They might actually just be hanging out and having fun, and that's perfectly fine. But what happens if once I get out, they all en masse come towards me? That's anomaly number two. And as they're coming towards me, they're exhibiting aggressive behavior, mean-spirited, yelling, some of that nature. Those are three anomalies to a normal situation. It's not that I have to do something to them, but at the very least, I recognize that's probably a situation I need to get away from, if at all possible. And if I can't get away, I need to be able to defend myself like we discussed in previous lessons. Now, the next thing we need to understand is that there are obstacles to having good situational awareness. If we understand ahead of time, like right now, that these obstacles are there, then we can do all we can to prevent problems that occur from these obstacles. So let's look at these three, what I classify as three very specific and primary obstacles to good situational awareness. Number one is not monitoring baseline. We've already talked about it, but very few people on a regular basis are just looking around them at any given time and paying attention to their surroundings. They hardly ever go into a restaurant and look at the baseline. They don't go into a grocery store and look at the baseline of activity. They don't go into the woods hardly ever and monitor the baseline. So constantly monitor baseline. If you don't, that's a big obstacle. Number two, it's what we refer to as normalcy bias. Normalcy bias is where we as humans have a tendency to want everything to be just fine and dandy. It's where we want to make everything that could be a problem normal. For a perfect example of this is you're at a restaurant, you see somebody get up. This typically happens with females. You see a female get up because she's choking at a restaurant. She goes into the bathroom because she's embarrassed. Now, the normal thing in our minds is to go, she's going to be okay. Whereas the better thing to be doing is to get up and follow her into the bathroom and make sure she's all right and not assume that she's okay. These are the types of things that we need to do and recognize. At the very least, go to the door and listen. Make sure you can still hear her. Something needs to happen so that we don't normalize situations that are not normal. Again, fighting normalcy bias. And the last, and this is the worst in the modern age, is what's referred to as focus lock. Focus lock is where we are nose down on cell phones, focused on something that is right in front of us. Sometimes this can occur without cell phones, meaning you focus on something. For example, if you're going hiking, you can get focused on the fact that you're too tired and you don't actually enjoy the time that you're out. That's getting focus locked on maybe a small pain, you're out of breath. Another thing would be you walk into again, let's keep utilizing this restaurant, or we walk into a school. We're not paying attention because we're looking at our phones. These are the things, again, normalcy bias, not monitoring normalcy bias, not monitoring the baseline, and not having focus lock. These are all the things that we need to do to ensure that we have good situational awareness. Now, this next concept, again, comes from a military strategist by the name of Colonel John Boyd. And Colonel Boyd was trying to come up with a methodology to teach people how to handle themselves and look at situations and do what needed to be done. Obviously, for military strategy, that often requires a situation where things are very stressful. That's why I borrow a lot of things from military mindset, because they do a lot of things under stress which require fine motor and gross motor skills, and I want us to be able to do that in the stress of a disaster, in self-defense and things that go along those lines. Colonel John Boyd referenced it like this. It's what sounds kind of funny, the OODA Loop, OODA, observe, orient, decide, and act. What this means is in the decision-making process, those are the steps that we take to do something. First thing we do is we observe a situation, we have to do something. We then orient ourselves, our bodies, to what it is that we need to do. we decide what we're going to do, and then we act it out. Now, these are not steps that take several minutes, not even seconds. Oftentimes these are done in milliseconds. But we do that process. And the beautiful thing is that everybody does that process. So if something is happening, particularly if there's a physical aggressor in a self-defense situation, they have to observe, orient, decide, and act out. Now, the reason I bring that up as far as self-defense is concerned, or even the disaster readiness situation is concerned, when we see something that's going to be problematic for us, if it's a person, we can disrupt their OODA loop, and that gives us an opportunity to leave the situation, because if they have observed us, they've oriented their body to us so they can aggress us or take control or whatever. If we interrupt that, then they have to go back to the beginning of the OODA loop. So that is why situational awareness and paying attention to your surroundings is vitally important. Because if somebody is already in their OODA loop and then they start you into your OODA loop, you're behind the 8 ball when it comes to that particular situation. You want to stay in front of it. You want to be, again, left of bang. So by understanding the OODA loop, we can understand how we need to do what we need to do to make proper decisions in any given situation. Hey, I have some wise words for you from another colonel. It's not Colonel Sanders either. It's Colonel Jeff Cooper. Colonel Cooper was a fantastic author who typically wrote about subjects where people are under heaping amounts of stress and they get things done. Again, I keep referring to that because there's a lot to learn from people that write, study, and research this sort of topic. And what Colonel Cooper did is he put together what he referred to as the color code of awareness. And this little piece of information has been added upon, changed, revised by all kinds of people, but personally I think going back to what Colonel Cooper did originally is real simplistic and makes it easy for you and me, the average ordinary person, to be able to understand. So think of it this way. You have white, yellow, orange, and red levels of what, again, he refers to as color codes of awareness. Your typical person exists in code white almost all the time. Totally unaware, not paying attention to their surroundings at all. Code yellow is what we refer to as relaxed aware. And what we mean by this is that somebody is relaxed, everything's okay, but they're obviously paying attention to their surroundings. You can think of a typical law enforcement officer as what they do all the time. This is what I do all the time. And what I mean by that is I'm just constantly, again, monitoring the baseline, looking at things in my environment that could be threatening. And when you first start doing this sort of stuff, it's going to feel paranoid, but actually you're just getting prepared so that bad things don't happen. So again, code yellow is relaxed aware. Code orange is where there is a perceived threat. You see something that has caused alarm, you've had the critical rule of threes, something stands out from the baseline. All these things that we've been talking about so far are happening or have happened, and that is a perceived threat. That's when you must start doing something, at least paying more attention to what's going on around, remove yourself from the situation, start to orient your body so you can defend yourself. Code red is where there is a verified threat and you have to address it. Whether that is there's a verified threat of a hurricane coming in, here it is, now we've got to go, we've got to get out of here now. Tornadoes, same way. Physical assault, anything of that nature, there is now a verified threat. We must do something, and we must do something now. So understanding that color code of awareness helps us understand, from my perspective, that all of us should be walking around in daily life at least in code yellow. Okay? Somebody that's a law enforcement officer, military, first responder, they might have to blur the lines between orange and yellow. But for the rest of us, we definitely need to be in that code yellow so that we're relaxed, but we're also aware of what's going on around us, and avoid and encourage our friends and family that exist in code white to get out of it. Pay attention, get off your phone, look at where you're driving, all these things where we're actually paying attention to what it is that's going on around us. Looks bad, doesn't it? I hope that highlights the importance of situational awareness. Me walking into this situation and you observing me, you can tell I'm not paying attention to anything because I'm looking at my phone, I'm texting, and that is a problem. I hope you realize that now. So as you move forward after this lesson, what you need to do is exactly that. Observe your surroundings more. Get out of that focus lock. Put this away as much as you possibly can. And again, if you do this, not only you're going to be safer, but you'll be able to gain more from life that comes around you. You'll be able to see more, you'll be able to appreciate more, and you'll have a much better existence in daily life. So come on, join in. Let's pay attention together.